Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm audible. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, Once again, good afternoon and welcome to this latest of our webinars of IFM Law School Bangalore. This is on a subject that has been rearing its head every now and then, which is that of parochialism in um, uh, parochialism in India, parochialism in every state. Very good afternoon to you, sir. Um, what am I talking about? I am talking about something that has been going on for a very long time of active attempts to drive outsiders out of a state, out of the scope of employment in a state. Good afternoon, ma'am. Um, why should we be worried about this? We need to keep in mind that this is something that has been going on for quite some time. This is not something new. There are only manifestations of this that are new at the present time. Most famously, Maharashtra has been doing it for a very long time. Marathi Manus. Gujarat tried doing it. Madhya Pradesh has made that promise. Karnataka has done it earlier, right? Today, what we are uh, focusing the discussion on are two pieces of legislation. One is a piece of primary legislation, which is the Andhra Pradesh Employment of Local Candidates in Industries and Factories Act 2019. And another is the Karnataka Industrial Employment Standing Orders Amendment Rules, also of 2019. The act has been brought into force, and the rules under the act have also been framed. The Karnataka amendment does not seem to have been brought into force as of now, but I suppose it's a matter of time. Now, what is the background that we are looking at? Take a look at this. Who speaks what in Bangalore? In the capital of the state, Kannada speakers are 32% in number, or were 32% in number in 2005. 4 years prior to that, they were 41% in number. And some five or six other languages take up substantial chunks of the remainder of the population. Now, before somebody gets up and says, but look, doesn't that uh, justify the actions that states are taking? Let me give you a few statistics about Karnataka. Right? Karnataka is home to the fourth largest technology cluster in the world. Merchandise exports from the state are in the order of $18 billion. The gross state domestic product is 1,588,000 crores last year. The a similar figure for Andhra is 8 lakhs 50,000 crores. To my mind, at least, these two sets of figures do have something to do with each other. The technology boom that started in Bangalore and which also started in Andhra, in the then Andhra, particularly in Hyderabad, came about because there were people who did their education in Bangalore, particularly, and in Andhra, moved many of them to the US, came back, brought other people with them, and gave people employment. It is part of that 46, 66% of people who are responsible for the kind of exports and GDP figures that we are looking at. Now, oh yes, and this is in the context that Indian industry considers that 94% of Indian IT graduates are not eligible for being taken into employment. Think about that. Now, what is it specifically that we are looking at? What is it specifically that we are considering today? This is the Andhra Pradesh, let me move this out, Employment of Local Candidates in Industries and Factories Act 2019. This is an act that has been promulgated by the government of Andhra Pradesh last year on the back of a campaign promise to ensure that 75% of all hiring in the state in specified industries henceforth is only of local people, right? I will not go into the specifics of the drafting itself because the act does, I'm afraid, leave a lot to be desired. But fundamentally, it applies to all industries, all factories, right? All joint ventures established in Andhra Pradesh. Joint ventures, regardless of presumably they are with the government or whether they are with a private party. It does not seem to apply to uh, what are called shops and commercial establishments, which are a category, of course, entirely separate from industries and factories. Though there does seem to be an ambiguity on that point also. But if you look at the definition of industry, that is defined to mean an industry engaged in the manufacture of certain defined items, right? So very clearly, this act is aimed at um, the manufacturing industry rather than at the service industry. Now, this is actually also backed up by the avowed reasons for which this act was brought into force. Now, the reasons for which the act was brought into force were basically that locals were not getting employment in Andhra Pradesh. On the one hand, land was being prime agricultural land was being taken away and converted to industrial use, but the industrialists who purchased the land were not giving jobs to the local person. And therefore, this act came into being. And because jobs were not being given properly, there was a demand to give demand by the local people in the affected areas to give them jobs. And therefore, this act now, what does this act require? One, it requires that any factory or any industry, as specified in the act, shall appoint or slash engage not less than 75% of the employment with local candidates. If there are no local candidates, then the employers shall train candidates and make them suitable for employment. Right? An exemption is given where suitable candidates are not available. These particular industry can apply for exemption, and the request for exemption will be duly considered by the government. And if the government thinks fit, it will grant exemption. Right? These are the penalties for uh, non-compliance with the act. Any employer, occupier, etc., who does not train and engage local candidates is liable to fine of up to 25,000 rupees for the first offense and up to 50,000 rupees for every subsequent offense. Mind you, this is a penalty that is to be imposed by the nodal agency that is appointed under the act and not by a court. This secondly, if uh, even apart from the first the provision, if an employer is found not to be maintaining this 75% of local candidates, it will be open to the government to impose an appropriate punishment within quotes, including rescinding the factory license slash clearance for such industry slash factory after giving an opportunity of being heard. Now you also have the amendment to the Standing Orders Act that is uh, proposed in Karnataka. Right? This is, dare I say it, slightly better than the um, Andhra Act in that it confines itself to every industrial establishment which is defined in the Standing Orders Act that has received any benefits, etc., etc., and it requires that such establishments, such industrial establishments, give priority appointment to Kannadigas who are Indian citizens and who are residing in Karnataka for not less than 15 years, etc., etc. Okay, and this is once again subject to the requirements of the employer as to suitability and other similar factors. Now, like I said, there have been attempts, earlier attempts to to bring such legislation into force. So far, none of them have succeeded. And in most cases, either the legislation has not been enforced, or the government has allowed it to lapse where there is a possibility of a bill lapsing, etc., etc. Now, what is the constitutional background to this fight, to this debate? Article 13.2 provides that the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part, and any law made in contravention of this clause shall, to the extent of the contravention, be void. Article 14, which provides that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protection of the laws within the territory of India, which shall not prevent the state from making any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, or for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And Article 15.1, which says that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. And a little peripherally, Article 19.1 D, E, and G, the right to move freely throughout the territory of India, to reside and settle in any part of India, and to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. Right now, if you look at the scheme of the uh, Andhra Act, it applies to everybody. It does not apply to um, any specified backward, socially or educationally backward class, or for scheduled tribes, or for scheduled castes. Nor is there any finding that the people of Andhra Pradesh are suffering any particular injustice which needs to be remedied, which can only be remedied by the people of Andhra Pradesh as a class, which can only be remedied by this act, right? The only reason that seems to exist for having promulgated this act, like I said, was because industries are coming into Andhra, taking up agricultural land and not giving jobs in return. For my part, I don't see a violation of any fundamental rights here. Is there a right to jobs per se? No. Is there anything on record to show that only a certain class of persons is being persecuted or needs a particular upliftment? No. Excuse me. Now, apart from the constitutional issues, there are very many more uh, procedural, logistical, etc. issues that the government of Andhra Pradesh, in this case, I'm looking exclusively at the Andhra Act, which the government of Andhra Pradesh does not seem to have seen fit to answer. When I was going through the rules, I was quite amused to find that the requirements for being classified as a local candidate do not include the need to speak, read, or write Telugu. How that works, I'm not entirely sure, but never mind. The other issue is what level of employee are we talking about? The act only uses the term local candidate. Any industry slash factory shall appoint slash engage not less than 75% of the employment with local candidates. It does not say in what uh, to what level. Is it confined only to shop floor staff? Is it confined only to workmen as specified as defined in the Industrial Disputes Act? Does it also include managerial, supervisory, and managerial staff? Right. Then the act requires every employer to take steps to train and engage local candidates with the active participation of the state. Right. Let me go back to that. With the active collaboration of that state. I'm sorry. The industry slash factory within 3 years with the active collaboration of government shall take steps to train and engage local candidates. What are these steps that are required? The act is silent. Who has to bear the financial brunt? On that also, the act is silent, right? Hang on, let me move this. Who does the training? In what way? Is the state to set up the training institutions? Is each employer required to set up their own training institution? Does this apply to every employer regardless of size? Then what if suitable candidates are not available? They simply aren't. And what about who decides who is suitable? Right? There is a provision for exemption from the provisions of the Act, from the application of the Act. But one under the rules that is only for 1 year, during which time the employer is expected to continue doing the training and employing local candidates. Then takes the call as to who is a suitable candidate and who is not the suitable candidate? Is that not a call to be taken by the employers? If the government decides, if the government of Andhra Pradesh decides that that the candidates are eminently suitable, the employer is stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Then the wording in this penalties was a little concerning. If in a calendar year an industry slash factory is found to be guilty of not maintaining 75% employment of local candidates in consecutive 6 months, it is open to the government to impose appropriate penalty, etc. Do they mean that for 6 months consecutively, the employer has not appointed local persons, or does it mean that for 6 consecutive months, the total employee strength of the establishment has been less than 75% Andhra? If it means the latter, then what about the local, what about the employees who are already there? All of these are questions that desperately need answers, but it appears that no one has yet had the possibly the need to bell the cat. It will happen at some point of time or the other. Either industry will talk with its feet, walk out of Andhra Pradesh, or by some other way, the government may itself come to the conclusion that it's not worth continuing with such a thing. That is my rant for the day. Thank you all very much for having taken the time and the interest to take part. Would anyone like to start a discussion on any particular point? No, Mr. Rudresh, you're very right in that the concern is of the livelihood of the people of that particular area. But at the end of the day, if the concern of the state government is of the livelihood of the local people, then um, you should not allow industry to come in at all, or as a part of the contractual terms and conditions with the prospective employers, you need to require them to give a certain percentage of the jobs to local. There have been enough instances of that being done, and part of the reason why it was stated that this act was required was because those companies were not keeping their promises. But if my counter to that would be, if those companies are not keeping their promises, is it not for the government to proceed against them as per law and as per the contract between them? Why are you imposing this condition on all employers regardless of their situation? If the government is concerned with the status of the local, then I think it is for the state to actually take care of them. If there is anybody, if there is anybody whose help the state can take, let it do so. But that does not mean that you impose a statutory obligation on somebody to to impose a statutory obligation on somebody without really seeing whether or not it can be done. That is the, I think, crux of my point and the crux uh, of industry as such. I hope I've not added further fuel to the fire. No, there isn't. There is no law which prohibits someone from moving from one part of the country to the other. In fact, the constitution guarantees you the right to move from place to place, right? And that is the crux of the issue. This act, amongst other things, it is a, a violation, to my mind, of that right. That would be going into a constitutional question, which I think is quite far from the scope and ambit of this particular debate, Mr. Rudresh. But that is a very good question. But then we'll have to go into the question of, do you can you prevent people from moving outside their own place, right? I had intended to start this uh, today's webinar with my own backstory, or rather my father's backstory. He was someone who couldn't get a job in his own place and he had to move. Of course, he turned that seeming tragedy into a triumph, and uh, with the result that I've seen a huge part of the country that I wouldn't have otherwise. But I have no idea about
Hey,
this.
hey,
Yes,
hey,
I
hey,
think we
my
can.
microphone.
That is the other side of this story. Do we really want to prevent people from moving out? At the end of the day, if you look at the figures of Karnataka, the industry has come up because of the outsiders. More, more, I would argue, than local Kannadigas. Chalo, oh, I think we're already well past time. Once again, thank you very much to everybody for having taken the trouble to come and participate. I look forward to meeting with everybody in future webinars, or hopefully in face-to-face seminars whenever that happens once the lockdown gets over. Thank you very much.